What if I told you that the secret to capturing a man's full attention, his obsession, his loyalty, his love, has nothing to do with chasing, pleasing, or pretending? That the shift from he's interested to he's enchanted starts the moment you stop overthinking and start showing up as her, the woman he can't stop replaying in his mind long after the texts fade? You've felt it, haven't you? The frustration of mixed signals, the mental tug of war, the late night overanalyzing of what you did wrong. But what if the answer was never about being more for him? What if it was about being more rooted in you? In this video, I'm revealing 7 magnetic soul-level shifts, rooted in timeless wisdom, modern psychology, and a touch of dark feminine power, that don't just spark desire, they ignite devotion. This isn't about playing games. This is about becoming a woman so in tune with her self-worth, so clear in her boundaries, so rich in her energy, that he feels lucky just to orbit your world. These 7 acts won't just make him crave you. They'll awaken a deeper love for yourself. Let's unlock the version of you that doesn't chase love. She attracts it effortlessly. Ready to begin? Let's dive into the first powerful shift. 1. Be comfortable walking away. Let me ask you something and be honest with yourself. Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have, just because the idea of being alone felt scarier than being treated halfway? Maybe you've accepted behavior that made you feel unappreciated or even disrespected, hoping he'd change, or because you didn't want to lose him. If that hits home, you're not alone. But here's what I want you to understand, and really hear me when I say this. The moment you start fearing the end of a relationship, you give away your power. Men, real men, are drawn to women who radiate inner strength. It's not about being cold. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to settle for less, no matter how much you care about him. That right there is power. That's emotional sovereignty. That's what captivates the masculine heart. And this isn't just about dating. This is Stoicism in motion. It's self-respect. It's emotional discipline. It's the quiet confidence that says, I can love you, but I will walk away if I have to. Picture this. You're dealing with a man who's distant, inconsistent, or giving you the bare minimum. Instead of shrinking, you calmly say, I value honesty and effort. I feel like we're not aligned right now. And if this isn't something we can both commit to, I'm willing to walk away. You're not playing games, you're setting the standard, and trust me, he hears that loud and clear. Because when a woman knows she can walk away, a man starts to pay attention. Why? Because humans value what they might lose. It's a truth rooted in psychology and in dark Stoic wisdom. Scarcity creates value. Boundaries create desire. But here's the bigger question. Are you ready to stop tolerating what doesn't serve you? Are you ready to put yourself first? Not as a threat, but as a promise to your own soul? This doesn't mean leaving at the first sign of trouble. It means being crystal clear about your non-negotiables and backing those words with action. And if he crosses the line, you don't have to scream, beg, or explain yourself 10 times. You walk. Because your self-respect will always be more magnetic than any form of desperation. Now I know it's not easy. You've probably had moments where you stayed, compromised, kept quiet, and every time you chipped away at your own confidence. But what if you could reverse that? Imagine looking at a man and saying, I'm worth more than this, and then choosing to honor that truth with your actions. That's not weakness. That's power. That's not rejection. That's redirection. That's not loss. That's liberation. And men, good men, they respect women who respect themselves. There's something irresistibly powerful about a woman who doesn't need a man, but chooses one intentionally. So what does this actually look like in real life? First, define your deal breakers. Is it emotional unavailability, inconsistency, lack of effort? Next, communicate your standards with calm clarity. And finally, if he crosses the line, don't just talk about walking away. Be ready to do it. Not to punish him, but to protect your peace. And even if he doesn't step up, you still win, because you've just created space for a man who will. That's why this first act is so powerful. It doesn't just make a man see you differently, it helps you see yourself differently. Before we move on, I'll leave you with this. What's one area in your life where you've been afraid to set boundaries? And how would it feel to finally reclaim your power there? 2. Value your attention. Let me ask you something real. How many times have you found yourself giving your all, your time, your energy, your emotional support, only to feel invisible in return? You're the one making the plans, checking in, keeping the connection alive, and while you're pouring yourself out, he's giving you just enough to keep you hoping. Sound familiar? Here's what no one tells you. When you give your attention away too freely, it starts to lose its value. Think about it. If something is always available, always accessible, always within reach, how special does it really feel? Exactly. Your attention should feel like a privilege, not a given. And the moment you start treating it that way, men begin to notice. Here's the truth. Men don't fall in love because you overextend yourself. They fall when they recognize that your time, your presence, your attention are rare and meaningful. Not because you're withholding it, but because you respect it. So, how do you actually do that? It starts with this. Prioritize your life. Ask yourself, what have you been putting on hold? What dreams, hobbies, or goals have you paused because you were too focused on him? When you start pouring that energy back into yourself, into your passions, your purpose, your peace, you become magnetic. Not because you're chasing him, but because you're chasing you. Your glow changes, your vibe shifts, and trust me, men feel that difference. This is where dark Stoic psychology comes in. When you're not always instantly available, you create a sense of intrigue, a healthy gap, a space where he starts to wonder, why isn't she texting back right away? What's she doing that has her so focused? That curiosity, that sense of mystery, it activates pursuit. Let me give you a quick example. You're in the early stages of dating, he sends a message. Instead of dropping everything to respond, you wait. Not to play games, but because you're living. You're in the gym. You're creating. You're with friends. You're pouring into your world. When you do respond, it's warm, authentic, but not over-invested. You're not trying to prove your worth. You're living it. That's not distance. That's confidence. That's what makes a man lean in. Because here's the thing. Attention that is earned will always be valued more than attention that is given away for free. This doesn't mean being cold. It's not about pulling back to punish. It's about being measured with your energy. It's about asking yourself, is this connection feeding me or draining me? That's how you become emotionally untouchable. That's how you move from anxious to anchored, from overlooked to unforgettable. So here's a simple challenge. The next time you feel tempted to overextend yourself, stop and ask, has this person earned my attention? If the answer is no, pull back. Not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Because the woman who values her attention becomes the woman men value most. And one more thing. If this message is resonating with you, don't just sit with it. Tap like, drop a in the comments, and subscribe. Because this is a community of high-value women, and you belong here. You ready for what's next? Because it only gets deeper from here. 3. Emotional independence. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever found yourself waiting by the phone, refreshing, checking, hoping, for that one message from him to make your day feel okay? Have you ever felt your entire mood rise or crash depending on whether he gave you attention or went silent? If so, you're not weak, you're not needy, you're just human. But here's the thing, that's not where your power lives. The hard truth? Nothing pushes a man away faster than feeling like he's responsible for your happiness. And nothing pulls him in deeper than a woman who creates her own joy, who is emotionally self-sufficient, steady, and whole. That's what we call emotional independence. And trust me, it's not a buzzword, it's a magnetic force. It's the difference between being a woman he feels responsible for and being the woman he's inspired by. At its core, Emotional independence is Stoicism in action. It's about mastering your emotions, not suppressing them, but choosing not to let your peace rise and fall with his behavior. You don't need to be cold, but you do need to be centered, rooted in your worth, anchored in your self-respect. Let's rewind for a second. Think of a time when you felt emotionally dependent on a man's attention. Remember the anxiety when he pulled away, the self-doubt that crept in, the way your self-esteem started to shake. Now picture the opposite. Imagine being so grounded that when he texts, it's a sweet surprise, not a lifeline. When he pulls back, your world doesn't collapse, because you were never leaning on him to hold it up in the first place. That's what emotional independence feels like. Freeing, centered, unshakable. Let's talk dark Stoic psychology for a moment. Every time you let someone's actions dictate your emotional state, you hand over control. But when you respond with grace, with calm, with restraint, you reclaim your power. Here's a real-world example. You're dating someone. The connection is strong, chemistry is electric. Then out of nowhere, he starts to pull back. The old you'd panic, chase, overthink. What did I do wrong? Should I reach out? But the emotionally independent version of you breathe. You mirror his energy. You don't chase. You let him feel the silence, not as punishment, but as presence. You continue living, thriving, building your world, because your peace doesn't live in his hands. And guess what happens? 9 times out of 10, he comes back. Why? Because emotional independence is rare, and rare is valuable. But if he doesn't come back, you're still winning. Because you've made space for someone who will love you without needing you to shrink yourself. Your worth doesn't wobble based on his behavior, and that's powerful beyond words. Now ask yourself, what fills your cup? What brings you joy outside of a relationship? Is it art, travel, creating, laughing with friends, moving your body? Whatever it is, reclaim it, nurture it, own it. Because a woman who feels full on her own doesn't just attract love, she attracts respect. Emotional independence is also about resilience. Relationships will test you. Life will shake you. But when your happiness isn't negotiable, you handle those waves with grace. You bend, but you don't break. So let me leave you with this. Emotional independence isn't about shutting people out. It's about never handing them the keys to your peace. It's about showing up as your full, radiant, unapologetic self, without needing anyone to validate your worth. When you master this, men will feel it. They'll see that you don't need love, you choose it. And that choice, that strength, that's magnetic, ready to step into that kind of power. Because the next act will take your self-worth to a level that most women never even tap into. Let's keep going. 4. Give him space to chase. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever felt like you're carrying the whole relationship on your back? You're the one always texting first, always planning the dates, always keeping the spark alive. And after a while, it gets heavy, doesn't it? Exhausting. But here's what most women don't realize. Men don't fall in love by being chased. They fall in love by chasing. Not because they're lazy or disinterested, but because desire is born in the effort. When you do all the chasing, you're not showing love. You're blocking his instinct to pursue. You're removing the very thing that makes him want to win you over. Let me break this down. Relationships thrive on balance. If one person is doing all the giving and the other just receives, that dynamic gets lopsided. Eventually, resentment creeps in. The energy feels one-sided, and the spark fades. But when you give him space to step up, to initiate, to miss you, that's when things shift. See, human nature is wired to value what costs us something. Think about a time you worked hard for something, a degree, a promotion, a body transformation. The reward felt richer because you earned it. It's the same in love. Men don't value what's handed to them without effort. They value what they've invested in you. But don't get it twisted. Giving space doesn't mean playing games, ghosting, or acting aloof. It means you confidently step back and let him come toward you. It means trusting that if he wants to be in your life, he'll show it. Let's paint a scenario. You're dating a guy, great chemistry, but you notice you're the one driving all the momentum. So instead of texting first, you pause. You go live your life, go to the gym, connect with friends, dive into a passion project. And when he finally texts, you respond, but not with desperation or overexcitement. You stay warm, present, but grounded, balanced. That space you created, it made him feel your absence. And that absence, it made your presence more valuable. This is Stoicism at its finest. Scarcity creates value. If you're always available, always pouring in, your energy becomes expected, not appreciated. But when your time is treated like a privilege, not a given, he starts to treasure it. Now here's a deeper question. Do you trust him enough to give him space? Because let's be honest, clinging often comes from fear. Fear that if you stop trying, he'll disappear. But hear this. If giving space makes him fade away, then he was never truly invested to begin with. And while that may sting, it's a gift in disguise, because it clears the path for a man who will step up without being pushed. Let me give you a real-life example. A friend of mine, Sarah, was in a relationship where she did all the emotional heavy lifting. She decided to stop texting first. Instead, she focused on her career, her friends, her joy. And something amazing happened. Within days, he started initiating more, planning thoughtful dates, making an effort. Why? Because the absence of her energy made him realize what he was about to lose. And if he hadn't stepped up, she'd still be winning. Because her self-worth stopped depending on his attention. That kind of confidence, that's what makes a man rise or disappear. So here's your takeaway. Giving him space to chase isn't about punishment, it's about power. It's not a tactic to manipulate, it's a strategy to protect your value, to create room for a real, balanced connection to grow. And when you master this art, you stop begging to be chosen, you stand still and let the right man come find you. If this message is speaking to your soul, like this video and comment, but a one below. Your voice is part of something bigger. This growing movement of women who are choosing power over desperation. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Because the next act is going to take everything you've learned and set it on fire. Let's keep going. You're just getting started. 5. Celebrate your own life. Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you felt fully alive? Not just content. Alive. So immersed in something that lit your soul on fire, you forgot to check your phone. Forgot to wonder what he was doing or if he'd texted. That's not just peace, that's power. And here's the truth most women forget. You are the main character of your story, not a supporting role in someone else's life. Men are naturally drawn to women who live with passion, purpose, and independence. Not because she needs him, but because she chooses herself first. That energy? Unstoppable, magnetic, rare. A woman who celebrates her own life doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't beg for love. She becomes the kind of woman who is love, and that changes everything. But here's the trap many women fall into. In the rush of new love, or the hope of deepening something real, they start to shrink. They cancel plans with friends, skip workouts, abandon goals, start living on his schedule instead of their own. It starts subtle, but soon the message is loud and clear. My happiness depends on you. And that's exactly when the spark starts to fade, because even the most devoted man will pull away from a woman who forgets her own light. So how do you flip the script? You make the bold, conscious choice to celebrate your life, with or without him. Not by staying busy to numb the silence, not to play games or make him jealous, but because you refuse to betray your purpose ever again. This is the essence of dark Stoic psychology. Finding your joy in things you can control, your mind, your passions, your purpose, your evolution. Imagine this. you wake up excited, not because of a good morning text, but because you're building something that lights you up. Maybe it's a project, a workout, a walk under the sunrise, or coffee with someone who speaks to your soul. That kind of woman. She doesn't wait for life to happen. She creates it. And men feel that, not with their minds, with their instincts. They watch your energy, your glow, your self-respect, and they want in. But here's the kicker. This isn't about attracting him. It's about reconnecting with you. Because when you live from that place, from self-love, clarity, and purpose, you become unshakable. You're no longer a woman waiting for a man to complete her. You're a woman who is so deeply in love with her own life, he realizes he's lucky to even be invited into it. Let me tell you about someone. Her name's Emily. She used to hinge her emotions on her boyfriend's every move. When he was warm, she lit up. When he pulled away, she unraveled. She was surviving, not living, until one day she chose differently. She launched her dream business, started painting again, took weekend trips, solo, and guess what? He came back with more fire, more consistency, more presence. Because he saw her become the woman he couldn't stop thinking about. Not because she chased, but because she reclaimed her power. So let me challenge you now. Ask yourself this. If you took romance off the table, what would make you come alive? What would make you proud, passionate, present? Write it down, make a list. And then commit to it. Not for him, not for likes, for you. Because here's what happens when you start living like this. You send out a message, loud and clear. I am whole, I am fulfilled, and I am the prize. And when a man sees that, he doesn't want to be your whole world. He wants to add to it. That's the kind of energy that doesn't just attract love, it builds love that lasts. So if you're ready to stop shrinking and start shining, like this video and drop a in the comments, your joy isn't just a vibe, it's a revolution. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. Because the next act is going to take everything you felt so far and unlock something even deeper. Let's go. 6. Set boundaries and keep them. Let's talk about something that separates the empowered from the exhausted. Boundaries. Not the kind you talk about in theory. I mean the ones you actually enforce. The ones that make people uncomfortable. The ones that cost you relationships. But win you your self-respect. Here's the truth. Boundaries don't push the right man away. They pull him closer. Because boundaries aren't walls. They're signals. They tell the world, this is what I value. This is how I expect to be treated. And I will walk away before I betray myself. That's power. But let's be honest. Have you ever bent your standards just to avoid rocking the boat? Agreed to something that didn't feel right just to keep the connection? Stayed silent so he wouldn't think you were too much? You're not alone. But here's the cold truth. Every time you silence yourself to keep him, you lose a piece of you. And eventually, he stops respecting the version of you that keeps shrinking. Why? Because men are wired to admire strength. Not forceful, loud strength. But the calm, grounded strength of a woman who means what she says and backs it with action. Boundaries are what make love sustainable. They protect your energy. They teach people how to treat you. They say, I value me, and if you want to stay, you will too. Still afraid of being seen as difficult for speaking up? Let me say this as clearly as I can. A man who leaves because you set a boundary was never meant to stay. Let that sink in. Now let's go deeper. Boundaries aren't about control. They're about clarity. And clarity is love, for yourself and for him. Because when you communicate clearly, you're not playing games. You're not hoping he reads your mind. You're setting the tone. Let me give you an example. You're dating someone who keeps canceling plans last minute. Maybe he's got legit reasons, maybe he doesn't. But every time it happens, you feel like an afterthought. The old you might have smiled and said, it's okay. But the woman who values herself says, I understand things come up, but consistency and reliability matter to me. If you can't follow through, let me know. and I'll adjust accordingly. One of two things will happen. 1, he steps up. 2, he doesn't, and you step away. Either way, you win, because you didn't fold, you didn't beg, you didn't shrink, you enforced your boundary. And that's what separates women who attract respect from those who constantly fight for scraps of it. This is the core of dark Stoic psychology. Control what you can. Let go of what you can't. You can't control if he respects your boundary, but you can control whether you stay when he doesn't. Let me tell you about Rachel. She was dating a man who made jokes at her expense. At first she laughed along, didn't want to ruin the vibe. But deep down, those words chipped away at her confidence. One day, she decided she'd had enough. She told him, "Those jokes aren't funny to me. I won't accept being spoken to like that." He didn't argue. He didn't get defensive. He apologized. And he never did it again. Why? Because Rachel finally stopped betraying herself. And in doing so, she taught him how to treat her. That's the secret. Boundaries don't just protect your peace. They elevate your worth. To you, to him, to the world. So here's your challenge. 1. Write down your non-negotiables. What behaviors drain you? What makes you feel disrespected? 2. Practice saying them calmly and clearly. No drama, no blaming. Just facts. Use I statements, not accusations. 3. Enforce them relentlessly. Because if your words don't come with consequences, they become noise. And noise gets ignored. Men respect women who challenge them to rise, not because they demand perfection, but because they embody self-respect. You don't inspire a man by shrinking for him. You inspire him by standing firm in who you are. So if this message hit you hard, like it needed to, like this video and comment 1 below. And if you're not part of this movement yet, subscribe. Because the final act is where it all comes together. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. 7. Embrace mystery. Let me ask you something, and be brutally honest. When was the last time you left a man genuinely wanting more? Not because you were playing hard to get, but because your presence sparked his curiosity. Because your energy made him crave the next layer of who you are. Here's the truth most women aren't told. Being an open book kills the mystery. And without mystery, there is no chase. Men are wired for discovery, not confusion, not chaos. Discovery. It's not about withholding who you are. It's about pacing the revelation. It's about letting him earn access to your world. Because the moment you pour out every emotion, story, and detail up front, you rob him of the most powerful masculine driver, curiosity. You see, mystery isn't manipulation. It's self-respect in motion. It's the quiet confidence of a woman who knows, not everyone gets front row access to me. And if you want it, you have to show up, consistently. Think of your story like a novel. Would you enjoy it if the ending was on page 1? Of course not. The beauty is in the unfolding, the tension, the pause, the depth. So how do you channel this magnetic power? 1. Don't overshare. You don't need to explain your every move. You don't owe anyone your past wrapped in a monologue. If he asks about your ex, try this. I've learned a lot from my past, and I'm grateful for the growth. Simple, calm, grounded. It says everything and leaves him wanting more. This is the essence of dark Stoic psychology. Control what you reveal. Hold your power. Speak with precision and never bleed unnecessarily. Mystery creates momentum. When he has to lean in to understand you, he values the connection more. 2. Live a rich, independent life. A woman who's constantly available, who makes him the center of her world too soon, isn't mysterious. She's accessible, predictable, forgettable. But a woman with passions, goals, depth outside of him, she haunts him because she's whole.
And he doesn't know what she'll say or do next. He starts to ask himself, what inspires her? What's she doing when I'm not around? Who is she, really? And that question, who is she, really, is the seed of obsession. 3. Let silence do its job. Not every message needs a follow-up. Not every moment needs to be filled. Sometimes your pause is louder than your paragraph. Next time you want to send a long emotional message, pause. Ask yourself, am I leaving room for curiosity or killing the tension? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let him wonder. Not to confuse him, but to show him that your energy isn't desperate. It's deliberate. Let me tell you about Mia. She used to explain herself constantly, thought it made her real and transparent. But men drifted. Until one day she stopped, started sharing in layers, started asking powerful questions instead of filling every silence. And men started leaning in. Why? Because Mia stopped auditioning. She started inviting. That's the core of feminine mystery. Don't audition for love. Make space for it to earn you. Let's clear something up. Mystery is not about pretending. It's not about withholding who you are. It's about holding the frame. You're still authentic, still emotionally available, but you allow the connection to build with elegance, not urgency. That's what makes a man pursue you with intention. Because the more there is to discover, the deeper his investment becomes. Here's your practical shift. Next time you want to say everything, say less, with more weight. Let your words create space. Let your life breathe without him in the center. That's not detachment. That's divine control. Because the woman who's rooted in herself, who lives with purpose, who guards her emotional access like treasure, that's the woman who's not just remembered, she's unforgettable. So let him wonder. Let him earn it. Let him chase the mystery that is you. Because attraction doesn't happen when you reveal the ending. It happens when you invite him into the story. You've made it to the final act, and now you hold the blueprint. These 7 acts aren't rules. They're reflections of a woman who finally said, I don't need to chase love to prove I'm worthy of it. Let me ask you, which act hit your soul the most? Where are you ready to rise? Because this isn't about him anymore. It's about who you become in the process. So choose one act. Start today. And watch the entire energy of your love life shift because you shifted first. If this message lit a fire inside you, like the video, comment 1 below, subscribe. Because you're not chasing men anymore. You're choosing you. And that energy, it's magnetic.